Welcome to the latest PRmoment Podcast. And today we're chatting with Rebecca Cradick. And Rebecca is Vice President Global Communications at Armis. And these are an in-house team of about 5 alongside multiple agency teams, I should say. And Rebecca's going to be giving us a bit of we're 6 months through, aren't we? I realised the other day, 2025. So she's going to be giving us a bit of a midterm report, I suppose, on the state of PR and comms, as I say, from an in-house perspective, as we reach the halfway point of 2025. But before we start, I've been talking about it for a little while now, I'm aware, but it really is now your final chance to get your ticket, either virtual or face-to-face. Face-to-face might be a bit tight now, slightly depending on when you're listening to this podcast. But on Wednesday, July the 2nd, it is our AI in PR Masterclass. And if you're interested in the future of AI in PR, and I guess, frankly, who isn't, I would suggest this is a very important event for you to attend. There's a lot of AI insight out there, especially with a sort of quarter of an hour tour of LinkedIn. But speaker-wise, this event really does separate the wheat from the chaff, the bluffers from the doers. So if you are interested in that topic, do check out the microsite PRmasterclasses.com for all the details, including the full speaker lineup. Rebecca, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to see you, Ben.
Absolute pleasure. Let's start off with a nice broad one, shall we? PR's changed, comms has changed, and in-house teams have changed. Just talk us through the responsibilities and objectives of an in-house corporate comms team currently.
Yeah, so as you say, it has changed a lot. I've been in my current role for nearly 3 years, and what I took on as I joined the company to what I look after now is massively expanded. I think gone are the days where you have linear teams of looking after just PR and analyst relations and maybe corporate content or investor relations. These have all, from my perspective, amalgamated, and my role and my team look after a plethora of things: social media, investor relations, analyst relations, executive communications, internal comms, corporate content, and of course public relations. So it's a very, very busy in-house team now, and I think it's very likely that that's the route that many in-house professionals are taking nowadays.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we'll I don't want to move into a definition of public relations, but I mean, a lot of that stuff that you mentioned at the start there, I would say is part of public relations. So is that modern, I suppose, from 1980s or something, PR took a tack towards media relations. Is that what you meant with the PR bit at the end there?
Yeah.
Right.
PR, I mean, it depends who you speak to on whatever given day. PR usually, historically, as you rightly say, was looking after media relations, engaging with journalists across the world, getting those stories booked in. I think public relations is actually much broader now. We do because a lot of websites have locked down themselves, there's not a lot of contact points anymore. Public relations is genuinely public relations for some of the PR teams and some of my peers. We are the interface for members of the public sometimes that are inquiring. We get inquiries for sales coming through to my department, which we have to reroute. We don't have very many, but if there's a customer issue, sometimes they don't know which way to go, and they'll come through to the PR team. So it's interesting. Public relations obviously definitely was incorporating media, and that's 90% of what my team do on a day-to-day basis. But I think we are also the sort of face a lot of the time of the company, and obviously I speak at a lot of conferences and do a lot of sort of public work. So I think, that sort of front person, that public facing persona is partly what PR professionals are expected nowadays.
Just drilling a bit more into that, who are the key stakeholders now then? I mean, because there's loads, right? Just from your opening sentence there's loads.
There is. So obviously my boss is the CMO. Communications within Armis is incorporated within the marketing department, but my actual day-to-day engagements are with the co-founders. So that's the CTO and the CEO. And then a big audience for me, obviously, is our individual stakeholders for my division. So media is obviously journalists, analysts and industry analysts. But a large proportion of my week is spent looking after after our investors. So people that have put a lot, got a lot of stake in the game in the company. They want to know what's driving our strategy for the year, what our success is, how far we've got along our KPIs for the year, and things that they want to help us with. Maybe there's things that they have guidance on, or strategies that they can support from their own involvement. So that has definitely evolved over most of the time I've been here. But for sure, my key stakeholder is still the CEO.
Right. And I think, you mentioned it in your intro there, the things like sales and internal comms. And I think one of the interesting themes around in-house teams at the moment is that increased breadth of responsibility. So just those are all parts of the job now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reflecting on this the other day because I found myself preparing a analyst relations announcement, and one of the things that hasn't usually been on my list of things I have to be responsible for is sales enablement. But of course, nowadays our sales function needs so much support in terms of materials that they're sending to prospects and customers, the messages that they're sending to prospects and customers. And actually, I would say now 10-15% of my week is actually sales enablement. So leveraging materials that come out of corporate communications and supporting sales, whether it's through social media posting, whether it's through manipulation of the message or crafting messages, emails. I've done letters for customers. We do a lot of customer advisory board work. So yeah, it's definitely expanded. And I genuinely didn't think a year ago that I would be doing as much sales enablement work as I do now.
Right. So it's still evolving. That's an interesting thread coming out of that, is that it's not like we've reached a plateau here. It's still changing, it's still evolving, and frankly, it's not going down, it's going up in terms of level of responsibility and things that you need to do.
Yeah, 100%. It is definitely increasing, but with not extra manpower or people power on top. I think, that there's a whole, obviously the old adage, you have to do more with less, right? But it's also about the evolving nature of the professionals at work. So when I first inherited the team, there was very, very, very specific team members that had just done media relations all their life. They knew how to craft a press release. They knew how to draft a byline article. They knew how to spin a story, but they didn't know anything else. And over the last 3 years, every single one of the my PR team has moved into internal communications, executive communications, speaker preparation, speaker abstracts, training, social media, sales enablement. So yeah, that list of things that professionals are supposed to be taking on now has definitely increased. But I think it's the nature of the job as well, because you said right at the beginning, it's so grey in terms of what does PR mean, what does communications mean. It's sort of, you're the team that people go to for crafting any message or any announcement, regardless of what it is. So I think that's where the evolution has happened, and more that team is going to be called upon. There was a conversation last year about, does PR have a sort of position at the board level?
Oh, that's been going on for
it's been going, exactly. It's been going on for years. But I'd say
basically, if you're a trusted advisor, you might end up on the board. It's as simple as that, isn't it? It drives me a bit mad, that debate, but yeah.
I agree. It drives me mad because I don't understand why it never was at that level. But of course, I think even more so when you're trying to deal with just the world we're all living in at the moment, crisis communications particularly, or reputation management, which I would actually prefer to call it, is really about getting the best communicators that you have in your company. And inevitably, not always, but inevitably, one of them would likely be at a communications team.
So it's obviously changed quite a bit, that role. I mean, just thinking about looking forward a bit into the future, is it going to continue to evolve? All the signs are, I suppose, are that it will, right? Because we've got, I almost don't want to mention it, we've got AI, we've got large language models. That's all changing, isn't it? And I think it seems to be PR's had a bit of luck with that. We seem to be more influential and more important in that regard than we probably thought we were going to be.
Look, I mean, I work for an AI company, so I'm really very conscious of the debate around AI and the use of it. I think there's negatives and positives, right? I definitely see AI being embraced within the marketing department. We use it every single day, different models depending on what we're trying to do. The speed of content that we need to deliver, it's very useful for that. As long as you add some sort of objective education to it and you're not just taking it verbatim, I think it's a useful tool. Where I see it massively changing, if I look back at my career sort of 20 plus years ago, I don't know how I would have started out in a PR agency. You know, that's my first job, was straight out of university. I was in a PR agency, sort of drafting a lot of content, learning, researching. That sort of is done away with now because you have someone else to do that. So how does that sort of more junior role start evolving, and what's the need of those people as they come out of university and start moving into the industry? That's one of the things I think about quite a lot as you know, as I think about the journey of young professionals moving into the communications landscape. I am not a believer that these roles don't exist. I actually think they will need to but to be thought about in a very different way going forwards. And there is a need for those new professionals to come in and embrace the sort of landscape that we have now, and that people side of the business, and getting to know people's patches and understanding stories and how to engage with them is probably going to be 90% of the job moving forward, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'll talk about the challenges in a minute, because I do think there's a few trends going on that are quite interesting. You mentioned budgets a minute ago, though, and how, I mean, clearly the breadth and responsibility of comms is increasing, right? I mean, there's you know, every comms seems different to an extent, but as a rule of thumb, that breadth of responsibility is increasing. And to be honest, I have different conversations with different in-house people. I don't have a conclusion. Some people say that the budgets are actually increasing. Some people say they're increasing but not enough, and some people say they're not. So where are you on that spectrum, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it depends on what sector you're in and what sort of company you're in. From an in-house perspective, my budget is pretty good. I've been really lucky, and there's been real conscious investment into what we do and what we provide the organisation. But there's a couple of tick box things you have to consider from my perspective. I work in a very, very fast moving technology sector, so cybersecurity, which is obviously hugely well funded, very, very important right now. So we're in a sort of, yes, it's a growing environment, and that helps a lot. I'm also in a massively fast growing organization. So if you were to have a conversation with a peer that was maybe in more of a very big, large corporate, maybe been around for 30, 40 plus years, maybe their budget wouldn't be increasing the way that mine has. So I think it's different answers from different people. I think what's interesting about budgets, though, is the paid for conversation. So even in the last 6 months, this year particularly, I have seen a massive shift in how journalists are engaging with us on paid for opportunity. So, you know, lots and lots of, across the board, lots and lots of different titles, media titles around the world that, you know, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago would do free editorial and work with the PR agencies or the PR in-house teams to build their story flow for the week. A lot of them now need funding to get anything done nowadays. And obviously we already know that journalists have been let go from numerous titles over the last couple of months. So that is evolving, and the budgets that you need for that, if you want to continue the level of engagement and awareness that you have as a corporate entity, you might have to start looking into a more of a paid model and a balance that between that and editorial as well. So that's the bit that's going to be interesting, I think, going forward from a budget perspective, for me at least.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. There's a whole future debate to be had there.
Yes, there is.
we don't do the sponsored content route, but there's a few different reasons for that. But we don't have time for that debate. Just going back on a broad strokes thing for a moment. We did an event just the other night which touched on this as well. That risk reward spectrum for communicators is a tough one at the moment, right? Because you really is. Especially for brands that want to be a bit more out there. And we saw a few years ago brands sort of trying to take that step to engage and have opinion on things, sometimes quite controversial things. It didn't always pay off, and they didn't always get it right. and it's always easy in hindsight, but it possibly didn't come from the most genuine of places on occasion.
Right.
But anyway, that aside, in the environment we're in now, there is definitely a trend we're seeing, right? Of brands just keeping their heads down, don't engage, and that's, but that also has its disadvantages, doesn't it? So that's a tricky one, right?
It is. I think you're right. You definitely have. I've definitely noticed, especially in B2B, B2C world. So I think there are more risks still being played out in consumer world to get the eyeballs, to get the attention of buyers. They're taking more and more risks, and some of them pay off really, really well, and some of them are a spectacular flop. And the cancel culture or whatever you want to call it. So you can just see it light up on the forums and the media reporting on XYZ's outburst or like posting, whatever it might be. And TikTok, which I'm a huge fan of in my personal life, takes obviously short clips and really goes to town on things like that if you make a mistake. From a B2B world, people are they are taking less risks for sure. I think it's very dangerous nowadays. You can't really seem to be too political, because a customer of some description will not like that or be against that. And it's very polarizing at the moment. So obviously we're at our HQ is in the US. And I remember when the US election happened last year, and we were very, very nervous because it was a diversity of thought, even in our own organization. It was, it wasn't quite 50-50, but there was definite people on Democrats and definitely on the Republican side.
Not everyone's going to share the politics.
No one's exactly. And as a business, we can't be political because we have customers all over the world. Yeah. I think it's interesting because I have this healthy debate with our executive team about which causes you go after, and if you go after one, you have to be balanced and go after something else that sort of is the diversity of opinion. So that's a challenge, and I think a lot of people are moving away from having any voice on these things at all.
I think that's right. I would add, by the way, I think from a consumer brand perspective, I see brands being quite brave from an entertainment perspective. I'm not sure I see too many brands getting really involved at all in some of the more difficult and controversial issues that we're seeing around the world at the moment. I think Palestine, Israel, there's and all that stuff. They're not getting involved now. It's not easy, but there's certain stakeholders out there who would like them to get more involved, aren't there?
Yes.
And I think you've definitely seen brands take a huge step back on that. And I don't pretend it's easy one to call, but a few years ago we were in a period where it was almost expected that brands did get involved in those sorts of things. But that's definitely changed.
Yeah, I think it has. It's interesting because I look back about 10 years ago, everyone was talking about corporate values and what does a company stand for, and everyone would have them on their website, and that this is the core belief of us as an organization, and if our staff are coming to work for us, then they should believe these values as well, right?
You're right. When I launched PRmoment, we had some values.
There you go.
We did it. Yeah,
and of course you do. I mean, every brand wants to, be trustworthy or, be
literally that was it. Everyone was trustworthy, honesty, and integrity. That was pretty much it became wallpaper, didn't it? But it
should be that's human standards, right? You should be like that regardless. I worked for Virgin many years ago, and one of the core beliefs was sort of be truthful and authentic to who you were, and that was the diversity of opinion, right? That was what Branson created across all his different organizations. And I think that sort of evolved into where we are with brands and trusted values today. But equally, I think people have moved off from that sort of overt, this is what you will receive if you deal with us. I think there's a lot still in the HR elements of it, but it's not so overt when you're dealing with that organization. And so if they were to be political or to have an opinion on something, it would have to really, really align with everything, I think, to be true to who they are and try and sort of tackle those things head on.
Yeah, but going back to comms, leaving the rights or wrongs of that argument, but it is the reality of where we're at. It does make it a more complicated stakeholder environment, which does require, it's just issues management on a daily basis, basically, isn't it? I was chatting to someone about this.
It really is.
It's that old interesting work quote. It's not easy, but it's interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you touched on it right there. Issues management is the thing that that I spend a large proportion of my week doing. Now, without going into the details of Armis, obviously we have a diverse workforce, but a large proportion of them are in Israel. So we are having to manage our number one priority, which is obviously our employees and the safety of our employees. We're also having to look at our business continuity. We're having to look at things that are just part and parcel of working life. And that is pretty straightforward. You of course would be on the right side of looking after employees' well-being, and of course you would be on the right side of customer engagement. But I really don't want to have a political debate with a wide breadth of diverse opinion, because things are not black and white, especially in that scenario. If you look at Ukraine and Russia, it's very, very difficult to have conversations like that in public. You want to be on the right side of humanity and doing the right thing and supporting the right people, but having a voice on those things is very problematic, because it will upset someone somewhere, and you're stepping into environments that probably as a business you don't really have any business talking about. No. And that's challenging at the moment.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I suppose related to that, does that senior comms role, are we in danger of making that always on senior comms role too difficult to have any sort of work-life balance? Because there's always stuff going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely the wrong person to ask that. I have no work-life balance. I work a lot. And look, I'm joking, because we do. The always on nature of communications is 24/7 now. I think also post-COVID, we work a completely remote working organization. We've got a couple of headquarters where we have a pool of people that come in for engagement, but we have consciously given people the flexibility of being able to work from home, so they can do the school run, they can do their doctor's appointments within their own life. Everyone's trusted adults to get their job done regardless of what it takes. But there is no off day. It's a Friday afternoon. You don't go to the pub with your friends like you used to. I work Saturdays and Sundays a lot, not 24/7, but I will definitely look at my email every single day. I will definitely respond to messages. The time zone issue is a problem. So evenings are often a couple of work calls. I always check things first thing in the morning. Yeah. When you're in my role, you have multiple plates spinning and you can't have a day off because something's happening around the world. Now, of course, we do want to encourage people to have some balance. And I think as you get higher and higher up within an organization, obviously that becomes a little bit more tricky. I encourage all my team to have a bit more of a structure than I do. But equally, there is a lot of support, I think, in that the days that I want to be with my family, even if that's a Friday or a Thursday, that is allowed if everything's quiet and nothing's going on. It's just the common sense adultness of engaging in a different way than maybe 10 years ago when everyone did a 9 to 5. Just that 9 to 5 doesn't exist in PR anymore, ever.
Yeah, I just, as you're talking, I just wonder how much that's changed. Like, I mean, it's different now, of course,
it's different.
But there were always, if you were a senior corp comms leader, you weren't, if you got the Friday night call from whatever paper, you knew that was your weekend gone, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was it's different. It's probably a bit more extreme, but it's
different. I think, I mean, I, as a leader and again, I tick the box of cybersecurity, which is always on and very, very hectic, in tech particularly. These are industries that are just, very, very, very busy. There are people that still clock off on a Friday and they won't worry about things until Monday morning, definitely, because the world of, I mean, I don't want to pinpoint any other sector, but there are organizations that don't have to do that always on sort of element. The world is not as cut and dry as it is in that sort of those sort of sectors. But I think also
those people, that's fair enough, but you're probably not going to earn the maximum salary you might have done otherwise, and that's a choice that people make.
Maybe
I'm kind of comfortable with that, but
I think you could be right. I think there's different levels of laddering, of career laddering. I mean, again, the tech cybersecurity sort of ladder obviously looks very different from the public sector, for instance. And yes, there's levels of responsibility and always on maybe does differ. But I think every path is unique to the individual. I think the other thing I was going to say earlier was it's specific to technology. I think the use of technology, I'm on my laptop now, it goes with me everywhere. My phone is always glued to my hip for everything. That technology has evolved to make sure that we are always on 24/7 and you're contactable 24/7. So I think everybody's
I'm going. We've got a holiday in a few weeks' time, and we're taking the kids on the trains around Europe because we just.
Oh, lovely!
Oh, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, I hadn't really thought about whether I should. I just assumed I would take my laptop, but now I'm like, it's going to be quite clunky on a train, isn't it? So, can I go away for 2 weeks without my laptop? I think I'm going to.
Yeah. I'm on holiday over the summer, and unfortunately my laptop will be coming with me, as will my phone.
Well, I can do the phone, but yeah.
Yes.
We chatted before, and you were you said WhatsApp, I think, was your most important stakeholder negotiations tool. Yep. And I understand why, because it's on all of our phones, and we have all these WhatsApp chats. I'm pretty strict on WhatsApp chats. I'm not part of too many because I just find it hoovers up my time or my attention. Yes. But WhatsApp has its limitations, right? I mean, first of all, talk us through how you use WhatsApp, and then we'll have a chat about, how do you integrate that into your calendars and, all that sort of stuff. It's interesting.
So, the calendars 100%. That doesn't work for me. I actually don't even know how to integrate it into my calendar. So it isn't managing my diary, but WhatsApp I use all day, every day for personal use, obviously keeping connected with the family, but it is the bread and butter of my company. Every single person uses WhatsApp. A lot of people have abandoned the internal chats tools, the Slacks, the Teams chats, because it's just not fit for purpose.
Right.
I get documentation signed off via WhatsApp. I communicate on what's top of mind. I give alert notifications. We manage real life event management of the teams that are on in-person events. If someone's on, attending a meeting and you need booth traffic management, WhatsApp is the tool that we use it for everything. It is. I know it's a blessing and a curse, but it has revolutionized the way in which we make decisions, how quickly we can get people's attention. It doesn't matter if they're in a meeting, it doesn't matter if they're traveling, if they're on a plane, you can get decisions made because of WhatsApp. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it was more formal, because it continues to evolve the work-life balance comment I made earlier, but it has been efficient for us. And I don't know of another tool that would have had the same effect, quite frankly.
No, it's just everyone's
bizarrely
on it.
As it is.
Yeah. Everyone's on it, and it's very accessible. Now, we chatted before in our pre-show chat about, I think one thing, interesting thing you said was COVID has changed the expectation of employers. They expect their people to work harder. I think you're right, but I hadn't quite thought about it in those terms, or those clear-cut terms before. How have those expectations changed, do you think?
It's the lost time. I mean, in our world, it's very, very speedy. Everything changes on a moment. But I think a lot of plans for organisations, and I not just B2B, but I have friends that are in B2C organisations and public sector as well. We lost nearly 2.5, 3 years of growth, of opportunity, of businesses coming up with different plans. Everything that they had desired was sort of either put on hold or redirected, or God forbid, in some instances, never happened. So we're definitely, I see it everywhere. We're playing catch up. We've got to speed through decision making. We've got to be at different milestones to just sort of cope with the lost time that was as a result of COVID. And I think also because people's lives have adapted, because there's flexibility of work and being at home, we're going through an evolution of the working environment much quicker than we would have if we just carried on as we were during the COVID years. So that conversation around employee base and AI as a tool, but also that lost time for a lot of organizations has put a speed, like the accelerator is down, it's foot to the floor, and everyone's trying to get things done much, much quicker. The milestones that people are after, gone are the days when, be okay with sort of 5, 10%, 20% growth. If it's not 50, 60, 70 and your hair's on fire, I think people think they're missing a trick. And I know we're growing at a humongous rate as a company, and we're definitely, you know, we're not mucking around. We're on a very speedy mission to keep growing and to keep developing. And these conversations of innovation and R&D, you know, where you have before maybe a year to develop something, you have 6 months now, if less. So it's totally changed time, I think, in terms of what businesses are trying to achieve nowadays.
I think I agree. I think a lot of I suspect working in cyber, you're at an extreme end of that. If you see what I mean.
I think so.
I mean, I'd love it if my business is growing at 70%. I hate to admit it, it's not. We're doing all right, but it's not.
Yeah.
But you know what? But I do think culturally, you're right. There is an impatience there, and maybe it does track a bit us back to the technology as well, isn't it? Everything can be done, frankly, more quickly.
Yep.
You know, let's all meet up for coffee in a month's time. No. Let's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, it is. It's like, let's have a call tomorrow. Okay, let's move this conversation forward.
Yeah, that's changed, but you're right. That does have implications for employees as well, doesn't it?
It does.
It's not always comfortable.
No, and it's not comfortable. I mean, I have always worked pretty hard, but in the last year, I'd say the amount I cram into the day, I just never thought I'd see the like. Just the constant, literally flipping from one call to another, decision after decision. People are contacting you on WhatsApp. I need you to sign this off. I need you to attend this meeting. It is always on 24/7. And the speed of which your brain is having to adjust to the next conversation. Like, I'm sure some of your listeners will totally agree to the fact they're having to pivot from one subject to another, to another, to another, every other minute of every other day. It's changing, and you don't have the luxury of, I'll make a decision at the end of this week and I'll get back to you next week. It's like, I need a decision on this in the next couple of hours. I need a decision on this bigger project in the next 24 hours. The time is just sped up exponentially.
I was talking about it the other day. What he said was that now when people go on holiday, they do tend to check out properly, because obviously you're not, but some people are, because you can get a bit blitzed, right? You have mind, all those decisions. I don't know about you. Sometimes I have to go and sit there and have sit in a dark room after the end of my day. I'm not really fit for conversation for a little while, because you've just got to chill out a bit. So but I think I do have longer holidays than I used to.
Interesting. Okay.
And I don't completely check out, because I run my own business, but it's not bad. And I think that's sort of, maybe that's where it's gone. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but where it's gone.
I think it's interesting you said that, because I would say my holidays have stayed the same, but obviously I am consciously aware that I won't sink into that complete lull, you know, the nice heat and the sort of soft breeze feeling of being on a beach or being on holiday. You can't really 100% relax. No. But it's interesting, my relaxation in the week, the most popular non-work conversation I have at work is recommendations on binge series. Because when I eventually finish and I'm like, right, I'm properly done, I really like zoning out and watching. I just finished Mobland, highly recommend it. It's amazing. And just lots and lots of series where you can, like, your brain can switch off and you get absorbed into something else. And I think that's, for me, that's currently what's happening. And the kids will be breaking up from school soon, so hopefully they'll distract me over the summer for a bit. But yeah, it's definitely different nowadays than it used to be.
Talent requirements of in-house teams. I mean, he talks a lot around how the roles have changed, so presumably different talent makeup. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the in-house people I've hired and my team tend to be on the more senior level. That's not to say there's no room for a less experienced person in-house, but I think the speed and the level of responsibility that's expected, especially in my world, maybe it's not for every world, but in my industry, you need to be really secure in your experience. You need to be secure in making the right decision. And if you can't, then you escalate it up to me. And then obviously you lean on my experience. So my team is more mature. They're 10 plus years, all of them. And that's definitely shifted from previous organizations I've led, where I've had the very junior sort of first or second job, where they're learning the business from a graduate perspective. That has changed. I do have a big agency network, and I do see differing levels of experience with that. So we still have that AE level with some of the agencies that are learning on the job, which is really encouraging. So definitely want to see the new generation coming through. But again, all of them, again, might be a cyber thing. They tend to be more experienced across the board, more senior consultants who have been doing it for a while, which worries me a little bit about where's the new amount of teams coming in, where's the new blood coming in for the next growth of companies. It's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of brilliant young people in PR. I don't know if I have a stat saying there are more or less than there were 5 years ago, but it would definitely be interesting to know that.
Yeah,
we should research that a bit more. But yes, I think we mentioned your in-house team, agency balance there. Should we just give a little insight? It's in-house team of 5, is that right?
Yes, as well as me at 6. So I have 5 members of my team, and then we have about 30 plus, about 35 agency professional staff across the world. So we have US agencies, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Nordics, and the ANZ region.
Right, and there's been a bit of chat about in-house teams expanding and maybe moving more responsibilities in-house versus agency, but that's another one of those debates. If you speak to 20 different people, you get 20 different answers. But
yeah, you would. I mean, I can't see the amount of people changing within the in-house team. I think their areas of responsibilities will change. We do less of the forward-facing sort of outreach to journalists. I have a number of relationships that I manage myself, but other than that, I think agencies look after quite a lot of the day-to-day activity for us now. So I see a role for both. But the in-house role, their role is changing a lot, and the expectations on them being linear and just owning one area of responsibility is as far as I'm concerned, they've gone. There's just no way that's going to come back for any organisation.
I mean, if you think about public relations as an interesting job, then that's good, right? It's a more varied, more challenging, more important job than it was, and you probably get paid a bit more as well. So that's it's good for everybody.
Yeah, and also I think that organisations don't have endless amounts of budget and employees that they can just keep on hiring. So if you have an individual or a group of individuals that really understand the business, are very, very well networked internally, have good relationships, are a trusted team, then you can put things onto them, whether it's internal communications or executive communications or writing or management of sales enablement, whatever it might be for your individual business. You can go to those individuals because their skill set is transferable. It's not just looking after media relations and writing press releases. Like, gone are the days when you just do that. It's actually about crafting messaging for that organization and being at the forefront of reputation management and risk management as well. And that's a role that will stand the test of time. Whether the PR element goes away or not, it will become something much broader for sure.
Yeah, and every business and every department is like this. If you have good, talented, experienced people doing work, it gets done so much more quickly than if you have not very intelligent, not very motivated, not very experienced people. Things take forever. That's not just a PR thing. That's life.
No,
but,
it's for sure. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And when we talk, my last question is a non-PR thing, really. But I think it's an interesting thing. You said that we're talking before the unwritten rules of socializing in a professional environment have changed, changed a lot. And I hadn't really thought about that, but I think I agree. But just talk us why you think they've changed.
I mean, look, again, I caveat this with the type of business I work for. So I stay at home, I'm a remote worker until I travel. I travel a lot. Pretty much 60% of my year is in the US. So I am traveling, I'm staying in hotels, I'm having dinner with my team, my broader team, my employees, colleagues. The dynamics of running that are very, very different than they used to be sort of 10 years ago. And I'm not talking about sort of HR policy and things like that. I'm genuinely talking about the level of of engagement you have to have with people. So I spend more of my work, my year with my work colleagues than I do with my own family. My family, you'd think, would know more about me than anybody else. And yet a lot of my work colleagues, you know, they're part of my life. They've learned my ups and my downs, my experiences. I'm buying a house, I'm buying a car, I'm getting a dog, whatever it might be. And so there comes a part of you that you give freely to your colleagues, and you engage with them on a more sort of friendly basis, I suppose, than you do from a professional perspective. And that changes the dynamics of an organization. You know, I hate this phrase, although I use it constantly, you know, welcome to the family, welcome to the Armis family. I say at least once a week to someone that's just joined us. And it's ridiculous, right? We're not your family, we're not there, we're a business, but it is because you're giving so much of your time and energy and your passion, you do feel like you are connecting to people in a very different way than maybe people would have done in a work environment. Now, obviously, it's different for different sectors, but I think B2B and tech particularly, it's a very small community in cyber where we all go to the same conferences, we all see each other, even if you're competitors, and we all know each other, and we're keeping an eye on everyone's movements. And it does feel like a close-knit, sort of very inner circle of people. So you have to have your wits about you, but you also have to be willing to share more than just your professional outlook on life. And a lot of my colleagues know my political beliefs, they know what's going on with my family, they know what's going on in my, you know, professional work, as well as you know, my personal beliefs. So it's definitely changed. The dynamics have definitely changed over the last 4 or 5 years, for sure.
But that opens up potential problems as well, doesn't it? So
It
you open up about your politics or your beliefs, and you know, we're all different, people disagree with each other all the time. You then at some point you go, okay, well, I'm going to let that one go and change the subject, right?
Yeah,
it does.
you have to. There's a nuance to language, and the nuance to sort of, it's like a fine line. It's very grey, and I don't think a lot of HR policies are built for this nowadays. Like you know, when you're at dinner, I mean, I'm completely teetotal, so I find these things much easier, and it's who I am. I'm very transparent. I'm open book, as you're probably experiencing. But obviously other people are not. So I think it's a very, very, very difficult tightrope walk of how to manage the environment of work nowadays, especially like things like this that you're having to navigate through. And late nights, and you know, you get up, you go to bed late, you get up early, you get tired, you get irritable, but you're still having to manage that professional demeanor all the time. It's definitely difficult.
You nailed it there. It's all a lot easier if you haven't had a few drinks.
Well, I don't, so that's fine.
Exactly. I find the same. Rebecca, that was great fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Ben.